Today, I'd like to do a review on the YAXI stPad2-LR. The YAXI stPad2-LR is sort of famous for being one of the best earpads you can get for the studio scene, especially with regards to the MDR CD900ST, etc., etc. The V6 is here as well. A bunch of Audio-Technica, some JVC, MX100Z, HASW01, some Pioneer. Anyway, many options. Let's start with the build. So I've been putting these on a whole bunch of headphones over the past couple of days, trying them out. They've lived up to their price. They haven't died yet after being unseated and reseated over many times. I'm quite happy with the quality of the pleather. The under pleather here, it's the cheaper kind, but that's probably fine because it doesn't come into contact with salty sweat and wear and tear. The Alcantara surface, it's a little bit fluffy. I saw some threads moving around as I blew them around. Maybe that's just how Alcantara is. I'm not an expert on Alcantara. Maybe that's just how it behaves. In any case, there's no holes in it. It's perfectly fine. I noticed that there's some imperfections in the pad, which I'm a little disappointed about. It's not the end of the world, but yeah, I can show that off quite easily there. There's I don't know if it was new like that or that developed over some time. In the end, it's not really a big deal. Doesn't really do much for the sound. It's just a dust cover. So nothing to really worry about. In the end, the only things you need to know are red is for right, blue is for left. The easiest way to remember which way around they go is the stitching goes at the bottom. Stitching, no one likes to see it. Very often when you get a headphone with brand new ear pads or even aftermarket pads, the stitching is almost always at the bottom. So top, there's no stitching. So when it's at the bottom, left side, you've got the pleather side facing your ear, and then the Alcantara on the back. So now I'll show you how to put these ear pads on. For now, my pads live on my JVC HASW01. So you've got the left side here and the right side here. I've got my right indicator on my DIY cable. Blue, no stitching, so flip it around, stitching down, pleather at the front, Alcantara at the back. Find the lip and put it in. And same on the right side. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the red and blue on the wood. Maybe I'll get the pure black version of these pads at some point in the future. So let's just go through these 16 headphones in alphabetical order. I think that's the easiest way to do this without having any bias. This is going to be purely a review on the ear pads and how they perform on headphones. This is not a headphone review, so some of these headphones you will not have seen before. They're brand new headphones on this channel, but you may see them again in the future. Let's start with the Aiwa HPX1000. So this combination of headphone and ear pad gets a pass. As we can see by the frequency response graph, it's a very easy pass. The tone remains almost entirely unchanged. The bass, sub-bass shelf gets a little boost. The tone and timbre is great. And yeah, if you have one of these, would very strongly recommend getting these pads. Easy pass. Next is the Denon AHD 550 with their 50mm diamond deposition drivers. Actually, I forgot to mention the Aiwas have a mica dome driver, so that's interesting. Anyway, these pads on this headphone, this combination, for me, it gets a fail. It turns into boomy bass hell. There's a thin kind of sounding low mids around 800 hertz, which it just sounds bad. It ruins the timbre. Wouldn't recommend. Next is the GREQ Ascensor HASR85S. So, I mean, I've got my weird pleather DIY pads. Funnily enough, these sound almost the same as these pads. So these get a pass. The pads, they maintain the general flavor that I expect from these. These pads are also quite similar to how the stock pads did sound. So these headphones are actually quite resilient to pad changes. But with these pads, it's an improvement and kind of turns these into a baby TH900 Mark II. Oddly enough. Not the same resolution, of course, but the tone and tonality is very similar. Staging, not similar. So if you're expecting a Fostex TH900 Mark II with this combination, forget it. But not bad. Would recommend. Very, very good pass there. Although the headphones with those pads looks stupid as hell because the blue and the red, yeah. Maybe go for the black one. Next is the JVC HAD700. Already these pads are not way too big, they are too big for these headphones. But it gets a fail because the bass turns into kind of a one-note wonder and the timbre is completely broken. Yeah, don't recommend that. Next, we have the JVC HAMX100Z as advertised. Now, first of all, it's already got blue and red markers, so it sits at home perfectly on this headphone. Secondly, it gets an absolute top tier recommendation from me. These pads have to go on this headphone if you're looking for S tier closed back portable headphone. The bass gets all juicy and fun. Overall, there's a bit more of a V-shaped signature and it doesn't ruin any other part of the frequency response, the timbre. The staging improves a little, the comfort improves a little. You just get a seriously high-end portable headphone, which it's not the same studio sound as you get with other pads, but it's way more fun. So if you're looking for studio sound, maybe stick to the Edify pads or the Z1000 pads, as previously mentioned in my other video. But if you want a bit more spice, nothing beats these pads. The incredible combination. Absolutely recommended. Next, we have the Panasonic HD10, which, yeah, mine are just crumbling all over the place right now. Ignore that. These pads, what they do to these headphones, they leave almost everything unchanged, but you get more treble than stock, which is absolutely what you don't want. So they get a fail. Not recommended. Next, we have another rarity, the Pioneer SE M870. Nice big 50mm drivers. Anyway, these pads on this headphone, what you get is a big cavernous hollow sound, which is created by that dip in the upper bass, lower mids. Would not recommend this combination. No, that gets a fail. And now something even older, a little bit rarer, the Pioneer SE900D, which is a two-way design. If you like the way these sound already, which, I mean, I think you're weird if you do. But anyway, these pads actually improve these. It leaves the mids and the treble unchanged, but fixes the problem with the bass. It actually elevates it and gives it texture and detail. It pushes it forward in a very, very tasteful way. I still don't like the combination, but those pads are an absolute recommendation on those headphones. And it's a soft pass. Next, we have an unusual contender, the Satolex Plum HDH0297. Not many people know about this headphone. They're more famous in Japan. So these, again, don't fit perfectly. These are slightly too big, but it does kind of fit. So with these pads, the bass suddenly gets a strong texture boost. Suddenly, the bass isn't so soft and calm. It's detailed and layered, but in a good way. The tonality does change, but it's not completely distasteful. So what you have stock is something actually quite neutral and almost dark in tone, whereas these give it that sort of W signature, that W-shaped sound, which is more lively and fun. So objectively, you get a worse headphone with these pads, but subjectively, there's a lot to like about that combination, and I would give that a pale or a farce. It's like a halfway between the pass and the fail. Yeah, it depends what you want, really. So now, things get a bit spicy. We have a Sony, the MDR-1R. So obviously these are the silver brown version and it'll look terrible with these pads, but that's not what this is about. This is about how it sounds. These pads turn the bass into a kind of a one-hit wonder, just that one note thumpy kind of sound, and it absolutely breaks the timbre. I cannot recommend this combination. So that was a little bit of a surprise for me. Here's something that's not recommended on the list, the Sony MDR-7510. So This is an interesting one. Again, this one gets a fail or fail pass or a fast fail because objectively the sound gets worse with these pads, but subjectively I actually preferred the sound of this headphone with these pads. Obviously your mileage may vary, you have a different opinion from me, that's fine. It can work, not for everyone. So, something to think about. If you own the headphone and own the pads already, give it a go. Gets a 50% recommendation from me. Now, here are some more Sonys. I'm definitely going to do a video on these in the future. The MDR CD999. Right now they've got the Z1000 pads on, which I think is so far the best. The problem is when these headphones are with these pads are all, again, too big. There's slightly too small of a profile here. The bass gets too boomy and has a very weird upper mid-range timbre. And I think that's to do with the size, the cavernous size of these pads and the depth. It's too much depth going on. These 50mm diamond-coated drivers need to be right up close to your ear to get a really good sound. So I was really hoping to get a good match here. Nope, not today. Now it's getting interesting. We've got, as advertised, the Sony V6. So, this headphone with these pads sounds absolutely dreadful. I would not recommend this combination at all. The treble gets too hot, the mids are an absolute mess, and the timbre is completely broken. It's way too V-shaped, and as you can see, no. Just no. Don't know. I don't know where this recommendation comes from. Next, we've got a sibling, the MDR V7. So, it's not much better. Bass remains relatively unchanged, but you get a bit more timbre because of whatever magic the pads are doing in there. But again, the mid-range gets broken, and you get this very weird, cavernous, hollow sound. And I don't think there's anyone on earth who would enjoy that. So yeah, V7, no recommendation. That's a fail. And finally, just something cheap and fun, the Technics RP-FT30. Everyone knows these, everyone's seen them, they've been around for donkey's years. I'm on the fence here. It's a fail, but when you put these on, you get a very dark, murky sound. The tone itself, I don't hate, because there are other dark, very dark sounding headphones out there, which people do enjoy, but the reality is you lose the sense of detail and presence. So it gets a fail. Well, there's no point listening to it if there's no spark and musicality, and you completely lose that with these pads, unfortunately. And then, of course, the JVC HASW01. These also get a pass. Obviously, this is where they live. I've mentioned that previously. What these do is they make a complete improvement over the entire frequency response. So you get a improved bass shelf, you get better treble extension, and the mid-range doesn't have quite as many dips. There's that one particular dip which gets fixed. So the only passes from the day were the Iowa HPX1000, the JVC HASW01, the JVC S&C, and of course the HAMX100Z. Yeah, so 4 out of 16. It's not a very good result. Anyway, some food for thought. I hope you enjoyed this unusual, different review. I know it was a bit graph heavy, but hopefully my descriptions were informative enough. That's it for now. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.